So, good afternoon, and thank you all for being with us today. My name is Aslihan Bulut. I'm the Law Librarian of Congress, and I'm very pleased to welcome the President of the American Bar Association, Mary Smith. Mary, thank you for joining me today. So, to start off, can you tell me a bit about your background? What motivated you to become an attorney? What is one of your most significant experiences that you have had during your career in the practice of law?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Ashlahan. I didn't grow up wanting to be a lawyer, nor did I imagine devoting much of my career to public service. I grew up in a family where neither of my parents went to college. My dad quit high school to join the Navy during World War II, and my mother was a gifted student who graduated high school when she was 16, but she did not attend college, even though her three brothers did. And I know I'm biased, but I think my mom was smarter than all of her brothers. Um, my undergraduate degree was in mathematics and computer science, and I enjoyed all the subjects. But I majored in mathematics and computer science because I knew that I would be able to have a career in that field. And I worked for as a systems programmer for a few years after college. And the part of my job that I enjoyed the most was helping people. And I realized that I wanted to help people in broader ways. And that's when I thought about going to law school. Um, as for one of the more significant experiences that I've had was right after graduating law school, I clerked for the judge Arlenier Anderson on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit. And a case came before the court regarding David Duke, the white supremacist and former Ku Klux Klan member. He was seeking to run for president on the ballot in Georgia as a Republican, despite the Republican Party's objections. And I was honored to help the judge with that case, where the court ultimately decided the case on First Amendment grounds, holding that the Republican Party of Georgia had the right to exclude Mr. Duke under its right of association.
That has been an exciting career. So, Law Day has been recognized for over 60 years in the United States. Can you please remind our audience what Law Day is and why it's important?
In 1958, the Cold War was a stark threat to U.S. national security. May Day military parades in Red Square and throughout the Soviet bloc, allegedly to celebrate International Workers' Day, were put on to show military might and stir up discontent in the U.S. So in 1958, then ABA President Charles Rhine worked with President Eisenhower to establish May 1st as Law Day, as our counter to celebrate the rule of law is America's foundation. In doing so, President Eisenhower issued the following statement: the world no longer has a choice between force and law. If civilization is to survive, it must choose the rule of law. And there's a struggle going on right now in the United States, a struggle between the rule of law versus rule by law. The struggle is very real, and our democracy is at great risk. Rule of law means no one is above the law. Rule by law means an autocrat decides what the law is, and then the legal system simply carries out his or her wishes. And democracy is a spirit creating a government that serves all of its people. It is fragile and dependent on the trust of its citizens. And our Constitution's founder, Benjamin Franklin, was asked, "What kind of government have you given us?" He replied, "A republic, if you can keep it." And if we don't stand up and make the required investments of time, talents, and courage to individually and collectively defend our democratic principles, there will be no democracy and freedom for all. Time is running against us. And in response to those threats to our democracy, the ABA Task Force for American Democracy was created to look at ways to improve public trust in our election system. The task force is co chaired by former Judge J. Michael Ludig and former Secretary of Homeland Security Jay Johnson, and they are overseeing an urgent mission.
That was a great intro and a background and distinction between rule by law and rule of law. That was wonderful. And it's a good segue to discussing the theme for this year's Law Day, which is Voices of Democracy. What does that theme mean to you?
Well, when our founding fathers convened to write the Constitution over 235 years ago, they set in motion an experiment that changed the world. America would not be a land of kings, but a nation of laws. Since then, generations of Americans have worked to defend and improve our system of laws and to ensure that the laws are applied equally and justly. On Law Day, we celebrate the rule of law and rededicate ourselves to the pursuit of a more perfect union. And since that first law day was established in 1958, as I mentioned, the American Bar Association has been a leading promoter of Law Day, advocating for the rule of law and the preservation of our democracy. This year's theme is Voices of Democracy. And today, our nation and our world are at an inflection point. At home and around the globe, autocrats and dictators threaten the rule of law. In autocracies, voices are silenced. So, having a voice, having a seat at the table are hallmarks of our democracy. And our democracy is under strain. We must all use our voices to maintain our system of laws and to ensure that our democracy, as conceived, endures.
Indeed. Um, what initiatives has the American Bar Association undertaken to promote this theme in the legal profession and more broadly in American society?
Well, I've mentioned the ABA Task Force for American Democracy is going to look at ways to improve public trust in our election system. The members of the task force include thought leaders, lawyers, former elected officials, business leaders, and others who represent, and this is very important, a bipartisan group of recognized national leaders with expertise in American government, democracy, and the rule of law. They're looking at three areas. One is depoliticizing the administration of elections. Another area is educating the public on the principles of our democracy and driving ownership of those principles into the American culture. And third, identifying and advancing improvements and innovations in our systems of elections that will address the root causes of the current politicization and lack of trust in our elections and in our democracy. And they're hosting listening tours around the country and having public conversations with a broad spectrum of Americans to hear their concerns, experiences, and suggestions for restoring and preserving democracy.
Those are great initiatives. We'll be watching closely your success through all of them.
Well, I wanted to ask you a question. Um, I understand the Law Library has undertaken some initiatives to strengthen public knowledge of civics in the United States. Could you talk a little bit about those initiatives?
Yeah, certainly. We have several initiatives that tie well into civics education. Back in 2020, a little before COVID, we launched our Legal Research Institute, and this was an opportunity to create, consolidate, and promote our in-person webinar-based courses, presentations, events in in a to an online platform. And so, in addition to providing support to Congress, the staff here hosts educational webinars and classes for the public. And there are several series tied to legal research, collections, foreign comparative and international law, orientations on congress.gov, as well as lunch and learn series on select topics. So these are all designed to shed light on different legal issues, often what is for perhaps in the news at the moment. And this is true specifically for our foreign law series. And you can learn all about our classes and events by signing up on our Law Library's news and events email list, which is on loc.gov/subscribe, or you can visit the Law Library's Legal Research Institute at law.gov. A couple of other exciting initiatives are also tied to civics outreach. We have we're in our second year of our state law libraries outreach initiative. This is an attempt for us to aim to strengthen the ties between the law library and the state law libraries. And it's now, we are just entering our, well, second full year with a great lineup of new states with which we are forging relationships. And since its initiation, we've hosted appearances from law libraries in California, New York, Minnesota, Virginia, Georgia, Wisconsin, and Hawaii. And in 24, we have actually this week Maryland coming up, followed by Oklahoma and Washington State. I'll mention very briefly a few others. We have a Guggenheim Scholars Program, which is a funded research at the intersection of democracy, technology, and criminal justice. So we fund a scholar to research using our collection a legal topic tied to those three areas. And this is awarded once a year. And we just actually finalized reviewing our applicants for this year and will announce shortly the recipient. The other initiatives are tied to our publications like law reports that we publish. We had signed an MOU with Hein Online, which is a major legal database that is subscribed to globally. And this is an opportunity to really share our unique foreign comparative international law reports with an academic audience. Um, and it has gotten great visibility. And we've received already in less than a year over 10,000 visits to this collection. Perhaps more appealing to a general audience, we also worked to promote public knowledge of civics through a Friends of the Library Congress sponsored challenge. And this challenge asks the public to design a simple video game that promotes knowledge of civics, which incorporate the Library of Congress resources. So this is our Friends Choice Civics video game challenge, and we are currently working through the selection process and will make the winning games available to the public hopefully later this spring. And finally, I want to mention if you are in DC area, we have a wonderful exhibit called Join In Volunteer Associations in America. And this is the newest exhibit at LC, and it explores America's history as a nation of joiners and our long tradition of volunteering for a wide range of groups and causes. The exhibition is still open. So I hope you can visit our beautiful Jefferson building where the Join In exhibit is located. Um, and there are many other things that we do throughout the year to support civics education. We host all kinds of events, webinars, signature events. So just if you subscribe to our list and follow it, you'll know in advance when to register. So thank you for allowing me opportunity to promote all of our offerings. So let me ask you, how would you advise legal professionals to advocate for democracy and more generally the rule of law in their communities?
Well, lawyers are essentially the keepers of democracy. We are entrusted by the public with fiduciary duty to uphold and promote the Constitution, democracy, and the rule of law. We have a duty to educate the public on the framework of government that holds our country together as the Constitution begins, we the people. And the political process provides for the people to vote on important issues through the election of their representatives. And when ill informed or autocratic voices seek to ignore or violate our constitutional processes, lawyers have a duty to stand up and oppose such violations. Education, as you have mentioned, which you're doing wonderfully through the Law Library of Congress, is the best protection against misinformation or disinformation that confuses the public. So we're seeking to keep politics out of the administration of elections and to strengthen civics education and help collaborate on your efforts with civics education.
So I'll make it a bit more personal now. What initiatives are you passionate about that you would like to accomplish during your tenure as the American Bar Association's president?
Well, the theme of my year is lifting our voices, charting the future. And I want lawyers and particularly young lawyers and law students to lift their voices and chart the future. One of the things that's already upon us is AI. It's transforming every industry sector, including the legal profession. AI represents both promise and peril. And with every technological transformation, the legal profession addresses complex and challenging legal and ethical issues. And the American Bar Association long history of being at the forefront of not only the most important legal issues of our time, but the most important issues of our time. So we're taking a leadership role in looking at the emerging applications of AI and assessing the impact of AI on the legal profession and the practice of law through the ABA Task Force for Law and Artificial Intelligence. And in furtherance of lifting our voices, charting the future, one of the things I've started is a presidential speaker series because law touches everything in society, as you know. And we're promoting civility at the American Bar Association and having conversations with people who have different backgrounds, different career arcs, different jobs, and the speakers in the speaker series encapsulate that because they are lifting their voices and charting the future in many different ways. Our speakers have included former U.S. Ambassador to NATO Ivo Dalder, Dolores Huerta, a legend in farm workers' rights, Martin Scorsese, who talked about his movie Killers of the Flower Moon, and we have many, many more.
Wow, what a star lineup. So, in closing, I would like to ask what career advice you have for young legal professionals.
It's pretty simple. It's just believe in yourself, be true to yourself, and try to be part of something bigger than yourself.
That is simple words of wisdom. Thank you so much. It has been an honor to speak with you today. I'm very glad we were able to offer this interview as a small contribution to our tradition of celebrating the Law Day with the American Bar Association. I would also like to use this opportunity to express my gratitude to the ABA's Division for Public Education and the Law Library's outreach staff. Thank you for your dedication and tireless efforts in providing resources and advancing public understanding of law and its role in society, and of course, for arranging and promoting our programs and events. Once again, thank you all for being with us today and happy Law Day.